Pandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Shahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Shahagana Lolita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vansha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Well, I thought to begin by speaking something about Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan on the Balarama Purnima day and the next day. The Balarama Purnima, or not actually Balarama Purnima, but the installation of Krishna Balaram in Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada endeavored long and hard to establish a temple in Vrindavan, and there he installed Krishna Balaram. And the work had been delayed. There had been an announcement of the temple opening that had to be recalled because the temple wasn't ready, and finally it happened. And Srila Prabhupada was visibly pleased. Perhaps you may have seen, there's a picture of Srila Prabhupada with the peacock feather in his hand, having just completed the first arti for Krishna Balaram. And you can see he's beaming with transcendental pleasure. So it was a wonderful occasion. And then on the next day, Hare Krishna. On the next day, Srila Prabhupada was walking on the road outside the temple, Chatikar Road, as it was called at the time. At that time, it was practically an empty road. Now, today, it's a different story. But back then, it was practically deserted, and there were no vehicles. And on both sides of the road, these boys either should play outside or should be quiet inside, but not play inside. My guess is that they'll be more happy playing outside. Good guess. Good. On both sides of the road, it was mostly just light vegetation. It wasn't built up at all. And those days there were peacocks everywhere. Peacocks would begin crying. One peacock would cry, and then 200, 300, 400 peacocks would cry from all sides of Vrindavan. So it had a wonderful atmosphere. Anyway, in the early morning, Srila Prabhupada was taking his usual morning walk, and he was again in a very joyful mood. And then he began reciting or telling of a pastime which we'll look at today. He said that Krishna he used the word flattering. Krishna is flattering Balaram, or praising Balaram. My dear brother, all of these trees are bowing down to touch your lotus feet, and all of these bees are humming to chant your glories, and the deer are attracted to you out of feelings of love. So in this way, in different, more at length, Krishna is glorifying Balaram. And then Prabhupada said, so we have installed Krishna Balaram just to make this point, because if you go in the temple, Vrindavan temple, on the left there's Gaur-Nitai, then in the center there's Krishna Balaram, then Radha Shamsundar. So Prabhupada said, we have installed Krishna Balaram just to make this point, that there's no difference between Krishna Balaram and Gaur-Nitai. Brajendra Nandana Jay, Shachi Shuta Hoilo She, Balaram Hoilo Nitai. No difference between Krishna Balaram and Gaur-Nitai. Gaur-Nitai means Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu and Krishna Mother. So Prabhupada said, if you ever have any difficulty, you can just go before Gaur-Nitai or Krishna Balaram and say, Sir, this is the problem, and they will do the needful. So I'd like to look at that portion of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, where the pastimes of Krishna and Balaram appear, is summarized in this book, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which Prabhupada called the Krishna book. Prabhupada didn't know whether he'd be able to complete the Srimad Bhagavatam, whether he'd get as far as the 10th canto. So before he proceeded beyond the 3rd canto, I think, he wrote this summary study of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And so we have all of the pastimes of this 10th canto as presented by Srila Prabhupada. And later Prabhupada did in fact leave before he progressed very far in the 10th canto, but his disciples have completed the work. So chapter 15 concerns the killing of one demon called Dhenukasura, who was an ass, literally, in form. He was an ass both ways. But before we get to Dhenukasura, there's a description of Vrindavan and Krishna and Balaram is the elder brother of Krishna. Balaram is the first expansion of Krishna, And in Krishna's pastimes, he appears as Krishna's elder brother. They're the same person, Krishna and Balaram, but Krishna has this capability to expand himself and appear in more than one form at once for his pastimes. So the same Krishna appears as Balaram. Prabhupada said the only difference between Krishna and Balaram is that Krishna is blackish and Balaram is white. In any case, so Krishna's, because he's the younger brother, Krishna's the younger brother, so he's called Ramanuja. You may have heard this name, Ramanuja. Anuja means the person who's born afterwards, younger brother. And so the younger brother of Rama, Balarama, is Krishna. Another name of Krishna is Ramanuja. Well, Sri Krishna, along with his elder brother Balaram, passed the childhood age, known as Komara, and stepped into the age of Poganda from the 6th year up to the 10th. So now Krishna and Balaram are about 6 years old. At that time, all the cowherd men conferred and agreed to give those boys who had passed their 5th year charge of the cows in the pasturing ground. Because Krishna, it's wonderful that Krishna is appearing as a cowherd boy. The residents of Vrindavan are thinking, how is it possible that Krishna can't be the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Why would the Supreme Personality of Godhead appear in a cowherd village? They heard something from Gargamuni that Krishna, or they even surmised that Krishna could be the Supreme, but no, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what would he be doing here in a village of cowherds? But that was Krishna's pleasure. Why should he appear in a congested city or even in a royal place? Eventually he does go to a royal place, to Dwarka. But first he wants to show his original pastimes in a place where everything is simple and sweet, and that's Vrindavan. To tell another story, one of the glories of Brooklyn, New York, is that it has a garden, the Brooklyn Botanical Garden, where Srila Prabhupada himself walked with his devotees. That in itself is a multi-faceted pastime. But sometime we can tell that. Or you can read in Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. Satsvarup Maharaj tells that pastime. But anyway, the devotees were walking through this beautiful botanical garden. Who's been through Brooklyn Botanical Gardens? Okay, good. So it's a place of pilgrimage in one sense, because Prabhupada walked there. And I was there. We were walking through this, it's not just a small garden, it's like an expansive park. And we're walking through these sort of rolling meadow, and there are weeping willow trees decorating the landscape, and it was a beautiful summer day. And after we walked, way into the park, Prabhupada, the devotees put down a blanket, and Prabhupada sat down with other devotees surrounding him and gave a talk. And he said, why is it that people like to come to such a park as this? What is the reason? And then Prabhupada said, because this is the original atmosphere. In the spiritual world, it's not factories and, skyscrapers. but it's a beautiful natural atmosphere. So there, we even now have a natural inclination to visit such a beautiful place and feel that we're something like at home, and that, what do they say, at home in nature. But this is a reflection. This beautiful nature is a reflection of that beautiful nature. This beautiful nature is only sometimes beautiful. Nobody walks in that park in December or January for a few months it's beautiful, and a lot of the time we don't want to go there. But Vrindavan is always beautiful. And when Krishna performs his pastime, the atmosphere is always pleasing. And that whole atmosphere is maintained by Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram is the master of the Sandhini potency. Krishna has 3 spiritual potencies. His potency of knowledge, Samvid, his potency of pleasure, Ladini, and his potency of existence, Sandhini. The existence potency is the potency that brings everything into existence. The whole material world is brought into existence and maintained also, because one thing to bring something into existence, but then you have to maintain it. So everything is created and maintained by the Sandhini potency of the Lord under the command of Lord Balaram. The Lord Balaram expands himself as the Purusha avatars, and the Purusha avatars create all the universes and fill all the universes with variety, enter the hearts of all the living beings. All this is made possible through Lord Balaram, or by the energy of Lord Balaram. He maintains the material world, he maintains the spiritual world, provides all the paraphernalia and necessary ingredients. Everything is resting. That's also stated in Brahma Samhita, Sahasrapatra, Kamala, and then, what is that? Anantaya. You find that it's like 5th verse or something. That everything is maintained. The spiritual world is like a great lotus flower, and at the center of the lotus flower with 1,000 petals. Okay. Sahasrapatra Kamalam Gokulakyam Mahatpadam. The supreme abode, Mahatpadam, is Gokula, Vrindavan, which is shaped like a lotus with 1,000 petals. Tad Karnikaram Tad Dhama. And it has, what do you say? Pericarp. It has the center of the lotus, which is the actual place where Krishna resides. And Tadanantangsha Sambhavan. Sambhava means manifest. It's all manifest by a portion of the energy of Ananta, or Lord Balaram. So Balaram is playing like a cowherd boy. He's wandering around Vrindavan with Krishna, and they're both playing like cowherd boys. But meanwhile, that same Balaram, by his bala, by his strength, is maintaining the entire material and spiritual worlds. So he looks like he's playing like an ordinary child. Friends are playing with him like an ordinary child. But meanwhile, he's maintaining, the ground on which we're sitting, and all the material and spiritual planets. And this is Balarama. Therefore, it's said in first canto, Gudha Kapatamanasha. Ati Bhartyani Bhagavan Gudha Kapatamanasha. they're playing hidden. Gudha Kapatamag, hidden in the form of human beings. They appear to be like ordinary boys. But Atimartyana Bhagavan, they're Bhagavan, Saharami and Keshava Krishna, along with Bhagavan, with Balarama, are the supreme Atimartya, transcendentally wonderful personalities of Godhead. If we don't understand this, we won't understand the activities of Krishna Balarama. We'll think that Krishna is an ordinary person, maybe a little special, or that he's some great, wonderful character in Hindu mythology, or we'll think something else according to our speculations. But the Bhagavatam is presenting Bhagavat Tattva, the science of God. And from that science, we can understand the world somebody has to be maintaining the world. How is it all here? All these planets, all these universes. Is it just hanging here out of nowhere? So Bhagavatam says, no. It's all resting on the energy of Krishna, who expands himself for that purpose, among others, as Lord Balarama. So everything, your house, my house, Krishna's house, Nanda Yashoda's house, all the houses are resting on the land and the houses and everything else are all manifest by the power of Lord Balarama. It's said that the entire material cosmic the entire universe, this entire universe, is resting on the hoods of Lord Ananta. Lord Balarama expands himself in the form of Ananta Shesha, many hooded serpents, and the universes are like mustard seeds, and our universe is like a mustard seed in a bag of mustard seeds. They're all sitting on the hoods of Lord Ananta. If you had a mustard seed resting on your head, you wouldn't even feel it. So for Lord Ananta Balaram, all these universes are like a few mustard seeds. It's nothing. We say, sometimes we note that he takes pleasure in his strength. So it's not just the strength that he shows by killing demons or such, but he's doing everything, maintaining the whole cosmic manifestation. That's Bala. And in the Vedas it's said that without the strength, the spiritual strength that comes from Balaram, no one can attain spiritual realization. That's another aspect of Balaram, that he's considered the original spiritual master. Guru Tattva is embodied in the form of Lord Balaram, and all the gurus, authentic gurus, are supposed to be representing Lord Balaram. Therefore we heard this morning from Archita Prabhu about the pastime in which Lord Balaram kills one supposed guru or speaker of Krishna Tattva because he was disrespectful to Lord Balaram. We can't be, if we're sitting on a seat like this, we can't overstep our own guru. We can't overstep. We're not independently supposed to sit here and say something smart, say something catchy, say something attractive, and make a name for ourselves. One has to sit on the seat as a matter of duty to speak what one has heard from his guru, his guru, his guru, his guru. And Lord Balaram is considered the original guru. Lord Balaram saw that this Romaharshan when Lord Balaram himself entered the assembly of sages where Romaharshan was speaking, all the sages stood up to honor Lord Balaram. And this Romaharshan stayed sitting because he thought, well, the etiquette is that, yes, someone important enters the assembly, then everyone stands, but not the speaker. Because the speaker is representing Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Vedic knowledge. So I'm the representative of Vyas. I'm sitting on this seat. I don't have to get up. Everybody else may get up, but I'm the speaker. So he remained sitting. So Lord Balaram, of course, it's a longer topic, and it was discussed very nicely this morning by Archita Prabhu. But Lord Balaram, seeing this sort of neglect of the proper behavior by Romaharshan, took a kusha straw. Kusha is a kind of a grass, thick grass, so it's like a straw. Took a kusha straw, and with his kusha straw, he killed the Romaharshan Sutta. This is not your business to sit on this seat and disrespect the original guru. And there's more to that pastime. A lot more happens in that connection. I'm just giving that much. One just aside is that our artists at the time, this is around 1969, painted original art for these paintings. And the Romaharshan, who's on the seat and killed by Balaram, bears a striking resemblance to a famous guru of the time. So, given charge of the cows, Krishna and Balaram traversed Vrindavan, purifying the land with their lotus footprints. Accompanied by the cowherd boys and Balaram, Krishna brought forward the cows and played on his flute as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, which was full of flowers, vegetables, and pasturing grass. The Vrindavan forest was as sanctified as the clear mind of a devotee, and was full of bees, flowers, and fruits. There were chirping birds and clear water lakes with waters that could relieve one of all fatigue. Sweet-smelling breezes blew always, refreshing the mind and body. Krishna, with his friends and Balaram, entered the forest and, seeing the favorable situation, desired to enjoy the atmosphere to the fullest extent. Krishna saw all the trees overloaded with fruits and fresh twigs, bending down to touch the ground as if welcoming him by touching his lotus feet. He was very much pleased by the behavior of the trees, fruits, and flowers, and he began to smile, realizing their desires. The depiction of Vrindavan is so sweet. And if we hear these things regularly, our mind becomes clear. The Prabhupada mentions the clear mind of a devotee. At night you can, before you go to sleep, you can check out YouTube and hear all sorts of stuff and see all sorts of stuff. so that your mind becomes as pure as a local garage. But if we hear these activities of Krishna, descriptions of Vrindavan, if we just hear a little bit every evening, say, from this Krishna book, how the mind becomes purified, how the mind becomes satisfied. And you can wake up the next morning remembering what you heard at the end of the night. So it's so wonderful. Prabhupada himself, every afternoon when he was residing in Los Angeles, every afternoon he would sit in his garden and just listen to the Krishna book. He would just sit there and have the devotees read. And maybe he'd give a comment or two, but he wouldn't lecture, he would just listen to the Krishna book. So we can pick up this idea according to what our, arrange our life in such a way that we find a little time. Just hear every day a little something from this Krishna book. It will purify the heart, it will bring transcendental pleasure and transcendental understanding also. Everything is here. We don't have a lot of time, so we won't even get halfway through the chapter. I'm on page 1.5. And there's so much to go. But just to give a little taste, Krishna then spoke to his elder brother Balarama as follows: "My dear brother, you are superior to all of us, and your lotus feet are worshipped by the demigods. Just see how these trees, full with fruits and flowers, have bent down to worship your lotus feet. It appears that they're trying to get out of the darkness that has obliged them to accept the form of trees. To be born as a tree means that in our previous life we were dark. Our trees are in the mode of ignorance. They can't read, they can't write, they can't speak, they can't move. So that species, tree species, plant species, they're considered to be in the mode of ignorance. The living beings who die in ignorance may take the bodies of trees. But actually the trees born in the land of Vrindavan are not ordinary living entities. Having held the impersonal point of view in their past lives, they've been put into this stationary condition of life. But now they have the opportunity of seeing you in Vrindavan, and they're preparing for further advancement in spiritual life through your personal association. Generally, living entities in the mode of darkness obtain the bodies of trees. The impersonalist philosophers are in that darkness, but they eradicate it by taking full advantage of your presence. The idea of becoming one with God and everything, merging in God, Prabhupada describes here as being in darkness. We hear this slogan, everything is one, we're one with God. We want to merge with the one, all one. Oneness. Actually, okay, I'll tell another story. This is 26 Second Avenue, like around 1968. And in the storefront at 2nd Avenue, so many people would come. And there was a very nice young lady who had begun coming to the classes and programs at the temple. She was what we called a yoga society girl. Back then, yoga societies were a little more serious. They had some spiritual philosophy. It wasn't just about looking good and feeling good. There was supposed to be some philosophy there. And the philosophy was the usual, we're all one, everything is one, merge with the one, feel yourself to be one, it's all one. So, anyway, she was a very nice girl. She was coming to the kirtan, taking part, obviously attracted. And then Prabhupada came to New York. He'd been elsewhere, he came to New York. And the nice girl came also and was attending Prabhupada's lecture. And at the end of the one lecture, Prabhupada called for questions. And she asked in a sort of gentle and very knowing sort of way, as if sort of giving Prabhupada an invitation to speak on a familiar truth. She said, Swamiji, isn't it true that ultimately everything is one? And Prabhupada said no. And he gave the example that in the body there are 9 holes. 2 nostrils, 2 ears, and so on, mouth. He said, so there are 9 holes, but does it mean that if you have food, you can put it here, or here, or here? He said, no, you have to put it in the particular hole, the mouth, then it will be properly distributed. So, in this way, he disagreed with the notion that everything is simply one. In the Bhagavad Gita, he gave the observation, because Krishna speaks of when one is enlightened by the knowledge by which ignorance is destroyed, his knowledge illuminates everything, as the sun illuminates everything in the dark, dispels the darkness. So Prabhupada comments that in the darkness everything is one. If we turned out all the lights in this room, everything would be one. There'd be no difference between the wall and the door and the floor and the people on the floor. Everything would be one. All the colors would disappear. Everything would, because everything's one in darkness. So real knowledge dispels the darkness of unadulterated oneness. So these sages had taken birth as trees, Krishna said, but now by the grace of Balarama, they were able to make further progress. I think the drones that are buzzing all around you, must have been your devotees in their past lives. They cannot leave your company, because no one could be a better, more affectionate master than you. You are the supreme and original personality of Godhead, and the drones are just trying to spread your glories by chanting at every moment. I think some of them must be great sages, devotees of your lordship. And they're disguising themselves in the form of drones because they're unable to give up your company, even for a moment. My dear brother, you are the supreme worshipable Godhead. Just see how the peacocks are dancing before you in great ecstasy. The deer, whose behavior is just like that of the gopis, are welcoming you with the same affection. And the cuckoos, who are residing in this forest, are welcoming you with their joyful, sweet cries, because they consider that your appearance in their home is so auspicious. Even though they are trees and animals, these residents of Vrindavan are glorifying you. They are prepared to welcome you to the best of their ability, as is the practice of great souls in receiving another great soul at home. As for the land, it is so pious and fortunate because the footprints of your lotus feet are marking its body. The commentators say that when Krishna was taking care of the calves, he was still young, his feet were still, not as strong. Now he's getting to be 6 years old, so his feet are making real marks in the soft dust of Vrindavan. So these are all sweet Krishna kathas. As if we were to read this chapter at a greater length, we would read about Krishna and Balaram playing with the cowherd boys, imitating the animals, Krishna imitating the movements of the peacock. You've seen how the peacock moves very, unusual way that the peacock is moving its neck. And Krishna would imitate that kind of movement, and the boys would all laugh. So Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he's playing with the boys like friends in this way. Joking with them, making them laugh, eating with them. So these are all confidential activities of the Supreme Lord. We get pictures, not pictures, but even pictures, or at least notions of God as the Alpha and Omega, God as the, seated on a throne in glory and that sort of thing, which we don't deny. But there's a still more, a still deeper or still sweeter manifestation of God. On the one side, God is glorious, He's great. That's, a theme, God is great. But part of His greatness, or most confidential aspect of His greatness, is that although He's controlling everything, He's playing just like a cowherd boy. And great souls, after achieving heaps and heaps of pious credit, are enabled to play with Him just like friends. This is better than merging with God. Therefore, devotees consider it to be hellish. If I merge, I'll lose all individuality, and I'll lose all the power to relish these sweet topics. I won't be able to play with Krishna and Balaram. I won't be able to even hear about the cowherd boys playing with Balaram, because I'll become just one with God. I'll be no better than a tree, rooted in one place and not able to do anything. So the great yogis want to become one with God, but the bhakti yogis are still more advanced. They want to play with God. They want to serve God in these sweet relationships And all of these things are made possible by the grace of Lord Balaram and Lord Balaram's representative, the spiritual master, and by the association of the devotees of Krishna Balaram. So all of these things are available to everyone, to the whole world. But Krishna says only a few rare people will take advantage of this or understand this. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, again, Krishna appears as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associate. Lord Balaram appears as his associate, Nityananda Prabhu. And Dinahina Yata Chilo Hariname Uttaruva. They're going everywhere and vibrating this Harinam. It's not just a song. It's not just it's not a performance only, some music, it may be music, that's all right, but really what it is, Golokera Premadan Harinam Sankirtan. It's a transcendental vibration coming from the spiritual world. You can say disguised as a mantra. It appears to be one of so many mantras. But if one chants this mantra under the direction of capable devotees, one gets love for Krishna. That love for Krishna is already there in the heart. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Saju Kabunoi. And Shravanadi, Shuddha Chitte Hari Kariye Udoy. If we simply hear this transcendental vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra, if we simply hear these pastimes narrated by Srila Prabhupada from Srimad Bhagavatam in the Krishna book, then that naturally existing attraction for Krishna will naturally reawaken. Naturally reawaken. So these occasions, Balaram Purnima, Sri Krishna Janmashtami, and many others, they all provide good excuses for chanting Hare Krishna and hearing and speaking about Krishna Balaram. Krishna is Balaram, Ram, Nrsimha, Varaha. Krishna appears in so many forms. So we can take advantage of all these things, and that will make our life sublime. Srila Prabhupada said, one will be happy in this life, and at the end of life, go back home, back to Godhead. And am I right that this is about time to end, right? Okay. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Rajan